You're reintroduced to it.
So, yeah. It's like seeing it for the first time.
Exactly, man.
It's like second honeymoon.
It's like Ohana. Who knew it was in California?
That's right. Ohana is pretty much a Californian beach. But we'll talk more about that later. Guys, welcome to Daybreak for game number 2. We're in the top right corner from Team Fnatic. We have Alive, the reigning IPF4 champion, and honestly, one of the aces, if not the ace, for Fnatic, although people kind of point to Moon, actually, for some really high-level games. Moon is really good, actually, on Fnatic, although he hasn't really been able to show it too much across the
Oh, man, I hope we see him soon.
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy. Everyone looks at people like Grubby from Warcraft 3. I mean, Stefano from Warcraft 3 also. But it's time, I think, Moon also breaks out. I'd love to see that.
We had him in NASL Season 1. It's
That's
such a shame.
We did.
He came to our finals, did really, really well. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and introduce the bottom left-hand corner player who is starting gas first. It is Rude Masa. Hold on. And
Are you trying to do the fancy camera thing?
Rude Masa.
You're just popping in and out, man. This looks like a really bad 90s music video when you go like, whoa, 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 and it like pops in and out on the guy's face, and he's like wearing a really oversized white shirt with pants that are like halfway down his knees. You know what I'm talking about, where they zoom in and out, and they're like,
sounds like
what's up, man? And they're like, doo, 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 doo. If you can do the camera 4, I'd show you, but it doesn't really.
Sounds like my Friday nights, man. That's what I do on my pastime. No joke.
90s was rough on all of us, especially in Jersey.
I love the 90s, bro.
I love the 90s too.
The best music came out
But
of the 90s.
I love the 2010s as well. We've got the iPhone 5 coming out, right? LOL. Guys, welcome to. Ooh, Masa also has 2 SCVs trying to harass the Alive here. Welcome to Gas First and a quick factory on Daybreak. It's a very common build, although sometimes people proxy it. Some people proxy in the northern part of the map, but instead Masa's just doing it in base. It's almost indefinitely going to imply extremely fast Hellion pressure, but he's getting a tech lab instead of a reactor, Andre. What is going on?
This is so tricky. Well, it's going to be Banshee opening, for sure.
Wow.
And what he's doing is going strictly just Hellion Banshee in this opening stage. Normally you get Marines. This is so risky. Obviously they died to things like a Proxy Marauder. Of course it's not Proxy Marauder. He already scouted his opponent, so I can't even say that. But that being said, I mean, he verified that. He went ahead and just put the tech labs on top of the barracks, and you can see the starport doesn't even have to lift off and sit down anymore. That's 5 extra seconds that you have. 5 seconds, Frodan, that's like 1.5 SCVs to kill.
5 seconds is a lot, Andre.
Yeah.
In any sport, they'll tell you 5 seconds can make the difference between a winner and a loser.
110 high hurdles, 110 or 100
right.
meters dash.
5 seconds is like how long it takes for Usain Bolt to break the world record, man.
I know.
Like, at this point, he's just gonna go insanely fast.
Well, the difference between like Usain Bolt's time and my time is like 5 seconds. So it's like, yeah, 5 seconds does beat a lot.
You know something I read the other day, that the fastest 8-year-old in 2012 would get a silver medal in 1986 Olympics. Like, how insane is in the 100 sprint? How insane is that an 8-year-old kid can run as fast as a silver medalist in the 80s? And everything was really good in the 80s, man. Just ask that one band that sings about 1983.
Yeah.
Right? With Springsteen and
all those
Madonna.
bands that you know from the 80s that lasted.
We're gonna hit every decade.
All that music that came from
Nirvana
the 80s.
was around 1983.
That's
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Red Hot Chili Peppers was around
That's
1980s.
right.
So.
Andre, you were born in the 80s.
I was born in the 80s.
I wasn't. I'm a 90s kid.
Oh no, Masa! No! Lost his SCV.
Yeah. That SCV was an 80s kid.
That's actually pretty important, guys.
Yeah, actually losing that early SCV is very annoying. Actually, there really shouldn't be an excuse to lose that.
Yeah, that's really not something that's acceptable. Not acceptable, Masa. But we're going to say it's obviously not going to be that big of a detriment in this game. Let's see how well his Banshee harassment is going to be. Remember, Masa is playing from the North American server, whereas Live is playing from the Korean server. So there is going to be a little bit of lag from Live.
Yeah, I think so as well. But Alive is sitting in a very nice macro advantage. Just has to deal with these Banshees. Masa trying to harass, but he's got to do some pretty significant damages because he's starting with 1 orbital to 2 at this point, and his opponent's been able to just play pretty greedy with his tech again. And now getting an engineering bait at 7.5 minutes. Talk about being super greedy, but Alive being able to get away with it because there's no cloak.
Of course. Yeah, this is really, really risky, but the reason why we don't have an early engineering bay, ladies and gentlemen, is because he saw the command center, and not only that, he sees that it's gas first. Normally when it's gas first, you don't have the room to get that Cloak Banshee. Well, get the Cloak Banshee in general. As soon as you see the command center, you're saying they don't have enough money to allocate enough SCVs to get enough minerals to the command center and get the refinery with three on there. So that's why you really don't have to expect something like Cloak Banshee in this position. Live making great reads.
Yeah, I definitely know exactly what you're saying, because gas first in this case does restrict your minerals so significantly. It's really tough for Masa to be able to get in that position where he's able to get everything. But one thing I do want to commend Masa is that he's able to stay up in the worker count relatively nicely, and that's all he really has to do with this Banshee. Poke, even out slightly, get up your tech. Look, Stim is about to finish simultaneously, so in fact, Masa's map presence isn't that far behind, but is he going to be able to...
confrontation!
He's losing so many Marines for free, and Andre, I love free stuff.
I do too, man.
Well, actually, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right, Andre? That's the saying.
There is no such
Everyone always wants something from you.
Oh gosh, oh gosh. Nope, nothing's gonna happen, nothing's gonna be triggered. Okay, so there is a Marine squadron going to, it looks like the main base of Alive. I think this is kind of redundant. I don't like this as much. The reason why I say it's redundant is because your Banshee does the same thing that this drop is going to do. It puts units in unfavorable positions. So really the correct thing, I think, is to actually take map control.
Sucks to be this one Marine. How did they decide that one Marine was going to drop out? And it's definitely the guy that they didn't like. They're like, yeah, we're going to plan this one covert mission. And then one Marine gets pushed down, and he's like, guys, let's do this!
What is he doing, man? Masa, again, is dropping over here.
Yeah, he is leaving up.
It's not going to do much. Stim, and then, wow, that's a lot of units.
They went to recover that one guy, but instead they're going to lose everything. The medevac drops. No evac whatsoever. Oh, this one Marine, man, he's cornered. I got this, bro.
So, right, like, when you look at that, the Banshee does the same thing as the Marines do. So what you're going to actually take advantage of in this mid-game is the fact that you have a better moving army. You're the one that actually gets to put your units over here at the Xel'Naga Tower. But the fact that Alive has his Xel'Naga Tower over here actually lets him stabilize a lot more. So his units are in better position to receive everything. If you actually take this out, all of a sudden Alive needs to counter some sort of huge push, potential huge push, or some sort of drop in the back. So his units are going to be a lot more spread out than what we just had. I really feel like Masa missed the boat a little bit on that last, I guess, engagement, whatever you want to call it, the little harass. And it's going to give Alive that advantage. Now, it's very tiny right now, but what it comes down to is Alive is the one that gets to actually make the moves because he has the army advantage, because he has both, or at least one Xel'Naga Tower, which he shouldn't have. He will be able to actually really force himself out of here and put Masa in this bad situation. If you saw, what was it? Ooh, there's two players. TVT last game on Daybreak, or last week on Daybreak. Gosh, now I'm blanking.
MMA versus QX.
No, it wasn't them. But what ended up happening was all the units stayed over here, and it was Select versus Cloud. Select put all of his units over here, and there's no good position for Masa to be in. Alive really didn't actually push over here, so I'm completely wrong. I thought he was going to be a little bit more aggressive with this, but instead he's just playing passive. I really feel like he missed out on an opportunity because of that. Things will standardize a little bit more.
Well, now Alive controls more of the map. Masa, again, going for that sweet spot drop. And I guess Alive doesn't really have much things in position. In fact, doesn't really have a sensor tower, which is something that's pretty normal to get at this stage of the game. But he's going to just push in here and kill off a few Marines, get a good scout of his opponent. But really can't do much damage.
Wow, nice job,
wow.
Masa.
Man, what's with him and leaving one Marine?
I know. It's like, where did you guys go?
Man, these missions aren't really to do drops. They're really just to punish like the guys that didn't do chores in their barracks or something. They're like, congratulations, you get to drop your opponent's base.
Here. I thought I would have had backup.
Wow.
No.
Masa.
No.
Masa now has 3 bases pretty comfortably as well. Pretty passive, though. No real commitment to any kind of attack, just pokes here and there. Alive does have his upgrades slightly quicker than his opponent. and weapons, but for the most part, these guys are pretty even. Andre, I want to ask you a couple of questions here then, I guess, hypothetically in TVTs. When do you start adding things like factories, or even when you start transitioning into a lot of like airplay as well? Like, when do you feel like it's okay, or do you just stick on Marine Tank until you see your opponents not doing Marine Tank?
Directly after 5th and 6th gas is normally when I take my huge tech roll. And that's because that's when you actually get the abilities to have that surplus gas to do something with it. If you get 7th and 8th, that's where you can really play a lot of different mind games. I think the bare minimum for some sort of tech is going to be 5 and 6. But here again, Masa, in very unfavorable terms, is going to engage against this. The fact of the matter is so many tanks are being lost. And look at that, Alive sweeping through. Masa just not able to keep up with this. Beautifully done by Alive.
Yeah.
That's a gigantic advantage. Again, Alive is in an advantage. Normally in this position, when you are so far ahead, you go and try to contest this area. Your opponent's Xel'Naga Tower, if you can get that position, that leads to wins. That's the one that really solidifies your positioning most of the time. We'll see how Alive actually chooses to use his advantage.
It's the sweet spot, really.
It is.
And Alive is now pushing over towards the top half of the map. I guess now that he knows he has a tank advantage, he's just going to counterattack at this point. And he's actually taking the same route as his opponent did, rather than trying to force himself down the ramp. It is kind of risky to move down the ramp if you don't have control of the tower range, but he does scan and see that his opponent's out of position. Alive might just try to stem and engage before that, but no, he backs off. That's actually the safer decision. I like at this point, it's really smart to take that safe decision. What
I would have loved is his tanks to actually swing around over here and his main army to actually stem up. It's going to force the siege, put Masa's siege tanks in a really terrible position, and then the siege tanks just swing in, the Marines come in from the side, and then you have this position to yourself. Alive would have been so, so nice. The difference between this and all of these units just being right over here, and then of course Masa being over here, makes all the difference. This is a very positional and tactical warfare, or war, when it comes down to TVT in these siege tank versus siege tank positions.
Yeah, and you can see that Alive is using the Shroud also as a point of anchor. Oh, nice Marine drop by Masa to really whittle down the tanks. And just like that, 2.5 tanks. Three tanks.
3 siege tanks. Nicely done by Masa, but big drop. Double drop in the back of Masa's base. That's going to be really tough. The 3-3, or excuse me, the +3 attack is going to be killed.
Oh, and he's looking for the other one too. Oh,
there
Alive
it is.
Senses it. He sees the steam things churning. I don't even know what it's called, but he's going to target it down. And repair! Not going to be in time. Huge plays from Fnatic Alive.
Very nicely done. Obviously giving him a gigantic advantage. Yet again, Alive now has a more permanent advantage, I would say. I shouldn't say permanent, but you know, 220 seconds is a very long time. Now Alive might actually be in a big confrontation over here. Nope. They're just going to back up. Oh, wow, reinforcements.
I don't know if I like this spot, though, from Masa, because attacking, or the high ground advantage is very significant for Alive. And also, he can kind of set up a huge flank. His tanks are in perfect spot to get flanked from 3 different directions.
That's exactly right.
It's a really tough spot, but you know what? He does unsiege and repositions a little bit better. Wow, clumping tanks all together, and actually he's sieging and unsieging en masse, Andre. That's something that I always do, and I always seem to get caught at the worst times.
Yeah, sensor towers would be a lot better, I think, than scans, but scans are always really reliable, so I don't mind this whatsoever. As you can see, both of them really evened out. 200 against 200.
Massive stem from Masa, but he's about to come off his stem because he stemmed really far back, and so it wouldn't have a lot of ability to attack for a long period of time. You see Alive is now just setting up turrets. Sensor towers, rather. To set up perimeters, just like you said, Andre.
So Alive is doing everything right. I mean, in this position, Daybreak isn't really a map when you're like, oh, I'm going to get more economy, and that's going to yield me something that's going to kill my opponent. No. I mean, basically, once you get 3 bases, you can go ahead, push out to this 4th base, and just really take that. You're not really expecting any sort of game-winning move unless you have a big advantage. That being said, Alive, what his priority is to get as many orbital command centers as possible. That's what the real race is in Daybreak. When you're in this position, you want to trade out your SCVs so you can have something more meaningful, whether that be a bigger army, maybe even battle cruisers, Vikings even. That's going to help out pretty substantial. These are the things that these players have to be thinking about, because this sieged up trench warfare really isn't going to do anything for either of these players.
Yeah, you can see Masa trying to attempt the same Marine drop again, but Alive is on top of things. I love that Alive also has units on the bottom center to catch the drop from Masa. Also has another attack force here to attack the third, and can take out Marine or take out SCVs and maybe even snipe the command center if given the opportunity. But now Masa is also getting in position. Alive also responds to the Marines running to his third as well.
Yeah, very nicely done. As you can see, orbital command center is being dropped over here. It's going to be very helpful. Nice little starport block to try to put. Actually, nope. Not a good starport block, but nevertheless, Masa will be able to clean up a couple of SCVs, but you can really see Alive is ahead in that orbital command center count. That's all that really matters. And, excuse me, I missed a little bit of engagement, but, ooh, Alive is going to push in onto these siege tanks.
Well, I mean, he did lose his siege tank, so I guess it's a tit for tat at this point. Alive trying to take off as much as he can, but he can't push too far, losing a lot of Marines. And all of a sudden, Masa able to force several units out of position, reclaims the center/top middle part of the map, which is very, very key for the upcoming inevitable tech switches, I guess. Alive starting 2 starports. You can see that he really wanted to switch to mass air way ahead of his opponent. But I don't know how much he can really be able to do because Masa has such a huge tank count. And Alive's tank count is not that high either. In fact, Alive has 3 tanks. And Andre, we always talk about if you want to switch to mass air, how you really need a reliable ground force to make sure you can't get attacked.
Yeah, normally that is a lot of siege tanks. Obviously, siege tanks just really own the ground. Alive, surprisingly, not really getting a lot of that. And look at this, 143 to 187. Alive, where is your stuff, man?
Wow, we might see, if this attack works, Masa just ties up the series and all of a sudden sends it into game number 3. Oh, but he loses a lot of Marines to that one tank.
Yeah.
That was really costly. But regardless of what happens, Masa does have a decisive tank advantage right now. It's 17 to 2. 17 to 2, and he's on equal Marines. It's because Masa doesn't have that many workers. In fact, his army supply is so much larger than his opponent, 140 to around 110. And now he's trying to drop the orbital commands Alive. Even though he made so many command centers, he's the one that has more workers and not really utilizing the orbitals, Andre.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, he just was not keeping up in his macro because of that. This is a kind of precarious situation for him. I mean, he's been so far ahead all game long, and all of a sudden he's just you know, losing it out over here. He is going to suicide some of his Marines.
Oh, they got caught by the AI because the tanks were shooting at the Marines, and a huge chunk of his supply was immediately wasted there. Alive now pushing out 3 more tanks. This is great pushing from Masa thus far, slowly and systematically dissecting his opponent. A huge confrontation, a mass stim from Masa, but a huge counter stim as well from Alive, but he has to give a position. He doesn't have a planetary here either. But honestly, a planetary doesn't really do too much in these positions. Alive forced to evacuate the fourth. A huge win for our root player.
Yes, Masa playing it absolutely beautiful. He's going to be able to push up into this position. I really love these siege tanks over here. That was so clever. And Alive, it's not like he's at a bad factory count. He's at 3 factories. The fact of the matter is, I mean, he wasn't macroing or something. And because of that now, oh my god, losing 2 siege tanks.
Wow.
He's going to lose his orbital command center over here as well. Masa is...
Wow, he's going to try to funnel all the Marines into a small choke and gain an advantage. Great tactical position, buying time for his tanks to also get into position. Masa doing fantastic, taking out the remainders of Alive's command centers while being able to force him from being able to push any further forward. Alive can't afford to stim. He's also on low medevac count. He's also loading up several of his medevacs. He's getting a little bit disorganized as well. Alive is forced to try to use guerrilla tactics here, and he's going to try to drop some Marines while stimming forward. This is Alive's last chance. He needs to defend his third base, Andre, but there's too many tanks.
Yeah, that's it. Alive losing the third base really solidifies the win for Masa. I cannot believe it. Alive was ahead all game long, and all it takes is just one mishap in macro, and he's dead. One lost battle, and he's dead, and this is the result of it. Look at this. Masa, I don't know how you came back into this game. I mean, think about all the drops, the Banshees in the beginning, just failing, utterly failing. And from here, we have a position like this. Masa at 160 supply to 63 of Fanatical lives. I mean, really cool stuff that we're seeing out of Masa, and he's playing a great brand of StarCraft.
Andre, Alive is mine out of his main and natural, and Alive is dropping the third from Masa, so he's trying to do whatever he can to stay active. But I mean, his income is so poor. He really can't make another army. And at this point, he's able to make 5 to 6 Marines per minute. GG is called, and Masa ties up the series with a great showing in his first series of NASL.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with Masa. I'm also kind of...
I didn't tell you, by the way. I interrupted you, but I picked Masa to win this.
Oh, okay. I picked Alive.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm really, really impressed with Masa's play. I think Alive did botch that. He was ahead. He really didn't use his advantages to the best he could have. But, of course, I had the bird's eye view. I get to see everything Alive. It's hard to make those calls. But some of the tactical things that Masa did to come back into that game was really, really nice, taking advantage of Marines being out of position. But one thing I want to say, when you're actually trading over to those orbital command centers instead of those SCVs, don't be attacking as much. You want to scale back, just be defending or be passive-aggressive. Like, get that forward position, but just...
passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
You mean threaten the attack before actually committing to it? Is that what it
threaten
is?
the attack, but make it just look like you're going to go all in, but just, I'm not doing anything, bro. I'm not doing anything.
Oh, I know what passive-aggressive is all
about. Do you, Frodan? Do you, Frodan?
Are you being passive-aggressive?
Do you, Frodan? Do you know what passive-aggressive is? Do you know what passive-aggressive is?
Thank you to Stamps.com. Hassle-free postage from your PC. Go to nasl.tv/p/stamps for a limited time offer. Guys, we'll be back with game number 3, deciding game for this best of 3 between Alive and Masa. Find out what happens next right after this.